All right. Thank you all. Isn't that music wonderful? We are so blessed to have Victoria and Carl with us more Sundays than not. And they learn these wonderful songs just for us, which is even more cool. Okay. I'm going to start off with some quotes. I have an insurmountable faith in the perfect outcome of every situation in my life, since God's infinite intelligence is in absolute control. Yes?
Amen.
For me, maybe, sometimes, most of the time. For God hath faith not given us of the spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and of a sound mind. Timothy. With man, this is impossible, but with God, all things are possible. Matthew. God meant for good. Genesis. All things work together for good to them that love God. Romans. These statements, they're so powerful. And I don't know about you, but some days I can be like, yes, that is so my truth. And other days it's like, really? Come on, really? And so this month we've been looking at planting these seeds of goodness, of love, of prosperity, of all of the things that we not only dream of and desire, but all of those things that we know are true because of that insurmountable faith. And today I want to look at that faith. And I want to share something interesting. So the title of this talk is Faith That Fulfills. And I started with those quotes, got the talk title. And then I realized what I'm really talking about is moving from that place of fear into that place of faith. Because for me, that's what gets in my way, is that human idea of fear, not remembering, as Timothy said, that we are not born of the spirit of fear. So here's this thing about faith. We all have a lot of faith. Everybody has a lot of faith. We have faith that that debt's never going to go away. We have faith that that job's never going to be perfect. We have faith that we'll never find the perfect love. We have faith that that next shoe is always going to drop, right? We all have that faith, and it's strong. And to a certain extent, our family, society, supports that faith, that idea of we can have faith that it's never gonna be enough. But what about that other faith? That faith that Leif shared with us this morning that is so beautiful. That faith that transcends boundaries. That faith that is universally available to all of us. It is the faith that the scientists find in their pursuit of truth. It is that faith of an artist when their inspirational paintings and whatever that artist is about to do comes to life. It is that faith of a lover's devotion to oneself. What about that faith? That faith that is that spark, as Maya said, within us, within each and every one of us. That faith that we can, if we're willing to come to this humanness from that place of power and that place of love, that spark that we can see in every single individual we come to. It is that faith that we all are one. And that we all belong to the one. It is who we are and whose we are that we all share. What about the faith in that? I love this story of a woman, and she's being chased by a bear. She's running as fast as she can, and finally she's cornered. She's got no place else to go, and she turns around, and in such fear she just says, "Okay, are you going to eat me now? Are you going to eat me now?" And the bear says, "Lady, I don't know, it's your dream." Right? How many times is it that those things that we fear is just our dream? It's our imagination. It is how we've built this, whatever it is in our mind, how we have visualized what's going to happen, when it's really our dream. It's our power. It is our ability to step away from fear and step back into love, back into divine goodness, back into that breath that is Spirit's gift that is always giving. In this teaching, we talk about how powerful we are, that what we think about, what we focus on, what we talk about, what we have emotions around, that is what we're creating. So what if that was an insurmountable faith that we started to court? You know, that faith that can become that anchor when we're in adversity because we know whose and whose we are. That faith that if we just take a breath and listen, we allow those whispering words of it to come back to us. What about if we focused on that faith that allows us to be resilient, that teaches us on a regular basis how grand life is, and allows us to see in our darkest moments that it's just temporary. It's just temporary illusion. Because a new day will dawn. It always has. We just have to go back into our own personal history to find one of those dark nights of the soul and see the light that really did appear. We can prove it to ourselves on a regular basis. Faith that is that steadfast belief that even though there's all this chaos, somehow something is working for the greater good. Whether we see it, whether we feel it, no matter what, it is weaving threads in our life. So the question is, how do we let go of the fear? And how do we step into that trust, that faith, that strength that we all have? How do we do that? Well, it's hard to say because it's personal. We're all on our own journey. And so we all have our own ways to going about doing that, all have our own ways to go about transforming, right? We do. That's part of, there's a class that Reverend Sherry's offering that starts this week. It's part of that work, right? It's all personal and it's all transformative. But there are a few simple, really small steps that I believe we can take on a daily basis that'll allow us to strengthen that faith muscle. Because the time to work on faith is not only when you're ready to get down on your knees and give it all up, but the time to work on faith is when everything's going so great. And just building up that resistance. Small steps that we can take now. First, we can recognize and acknowledge that we've got fears. Right? We can identify them. Because once you identify it, it loses some of its power. Once you identify it, you get some of that strength to work around it. What are some of the things that you fear most right now? When we acknowledge what our fears are, when we name them but not claim them, we can then figure out how to go about letting them go. And that leads us right to that idea of cultivating self-compassion. I'm sure I'm not the only one in this room who can feel passionately for others while I beat myself up for a bad hair day. You know? What about if we were as compassionate to ourselves as we are to those that we love? Because self-love self-care, it opens up that wonderful door for that journey to be so much sweeter. And then we can take the small step of seeking support, recognizing that we're not in this alone, that those people in our lives who are not supporting whatever it is that we're doing, we can move beyond them. We can move into this spiritual community. We can reach out and seek spiritual counseling and prayer support from the practitioners of this center. We can do it in person. We can do it via Zoom. We can do it via email. Anyone right here and right now who is not feeling supported, now's the time to say it and allow our prayer practitioners to provide that support. There's no reason for us to ever go it alone. Sometimes it's so much easier when someone else takes it. I know for me, when I can't let it go, I can still let someone else take on the burden. I can let them handle it because I know it's being handled. I don't have to handle it. So if you don't have a prayer practitioner, if you don't have a prayer partner, think about it. Then, of course, we can also start to practice mindfulness, because when we are mindful, when we are in the present moment now, we are not paying homage to that crazy little monkey mind that's saying, oh no, oh no. And we can embrace our uncertainty and surrender our control. Again, by turning it over either to Spirit or to a prayer partner or a practitioner. But most importantly, we can focus on gratitude. You knew that one was coming up, didn't you? It's gratitude. It's just the simplest spiritual practice one could embrace. And there is no faster way to move from fear into that place of faith than by being thankful. Being thankful. We take these small steps. We allow ourselves to embrace the discomfort that it brings to us, right? And before we know it, we're beyond our comfort zone. We're out there. We are living in faith. We are steadfast enough to realize that we're content with who we are. To realize that we can make this world a better place for all by recognizing all from that place of love and faith. Mary Morrissey, I once heard her give a talk, and she was in her early spiritual growth. She hadn't built her center there or had all of those crises going on. But she went to church, and for the first time, she really paid attention, and she heard someone say, "You're not having a bad day unless you accept it as a bad day. It's not a bad day unless you say it's a bad day," right? When something bad, the words of advice that this minister gave was, if something bad is happening, put it out of your mind for 3 days. Like, write it down, put it out of your mind for 3 days. Wait 3 days before you panic, you worry, or take action. And during those 3 days, something good will come of the situation. She wrote that it was the first time she ever realized that one can schedule one's panic attacks. Don't you love that idea? Like, okay, this isn't so cool. I'm just going to give it some time to marinate. Not willing to turn it over to God. Maybe not even for 3 days. Maybe for 3 hours. Maybe we need to start with 3 minutes. I don't know. Wherever you are is where you have to start. But just turn it over. Let it go. And step back into that knowing that Spirit gave us power. Power of choice. Power of love. The power to breathe. That's our truth. Emma Curtis Hopkins wrote, People often know the promised passage of the Bible by heart. But when trouble strikes, they have no confidence in them as the absolute truth. Just once holding on to them when you are in trouble would give you a good start in faith. Holding on to the great principles set forth in the scripture while you are in trouble will invigorate your character beyond your means. It is the very mystery of godliness. How sure are people to come out right who have a strong, honest confidence that they will come out right? We've all proven to ourselves that we can come out right. We've all proven to ourselves that having faith in ourselves, in our divinity, always wins in the end. I have insurmountable faith in the perfect outcome of every situation in my life since God's intelligence is in absolute control. Morrissey, always in control. Even when we feel we're not in control, we are. We can still breathe. We can still give thanks. We can still smile. We can still say, not today. I know I've never walked on fire, but I know I've walked through it, and I'm sure all of you have as well in one way or another. And we're all still here, and we can talk about it. We can share our experiences with others. We can remember how much better it was once we walked through it. Ernest Holmes, faith is the ever light of our day and the light of our way, making way clearly visible to us when all others may beset us. Maybe there are nothing but obstacles in front of us. It is the light that shines. So, in the Bible, it talks about Peter, right? And Peter was walking on water until he realized he was walking on water. And then what happened? He was no longer walking on water, right? And that's what fear is. It's that little thing that says, wait a second. But what if we said, no, I'm not waiting a second. I'm gonna deal with that later. I'm gonna keep walking. Because my faith is not only strong right now, but it's getting stronger. Last week, Marv shared a testimonial about turning it over to God. And every time he turned it over to God, it got better and it got sweeter. It's all about that. That's what faith is all about. It's about planting that seed today, strengthening that muscle today so we have it for later. It's about knowing that whatever it is we're going through, we're going. And on the other end, our faith will be so much stronger. Repeat this after me, if you would be so kind. For God has not given me the spirit of fear, but of power, of love, of sound mind. By myself, this is impossible. But with God, all things are possible. Every situation in my life, God's infinite intelligence is in control. That is the truth. So, your assignment this week, when that fear shows up, when that nagging little thought shows up, put it aside. 3 days if you can. 3 hours would be great. Just put it aside for 3 hours. Just don't think about it. Just let it marinate. And then see what it looks like in 3 hours. This week, I invite us all to schedule our panic attacks. Let's try it. Let's see if it works for ourselves. Because as the founder of this teaching said, the only way to know it works is to prove it to yourself. So, who's willing to schedule panic attacks this week? Let's do it. All right. All right. And now I'm going to close out with a prayer. So join me. Let us just all take that wonderful breath. Allow that gratitude to seep in. And I just say this in the first person when I say, oh, Spirit, I love you. It is that love, it is that power, it is that joy, it is that divine connection and knowing of that higher goodness that I just say yes to. I say yes. I say yes to knowing that that is not only my truth, but everyone's truth. I say yes to a life that is full of love and joy and is centered in faith. I say yes to being surrounded by those divine individuals who are here to love and support me to the same degree I am willing to love and to support them. Right here and right now, I claim the power and the glory and the divine expression which is mine by divine birthright. I claim it. I use it. I give thanks for it. And I share it knowing that as my life becomes more abundant, I have more to give. And those around me have more that they can receive. In this moment, I give thanks for everything, including my fears, because it is through that I can reestablish my faith in myself, my faith in the one, and my faith in this thing that we call love. I love life. I love me. I love my community. And I just allow love to lead the way. And so it is.